Welcome and thank you for joining us for the California League of Elementary Schools Region 7 Educator of the Year Awards. My name is Kendra Matson and I am the trustee for CLES in Region 7, which covers the Central Valley from Bakersfield through Madera County. I would like to extend a warm thank you to our panel members who did the hard work of reading and scoring all of the fantastic nominations we received. If you would like to join us to be part of this process in the future, please don't hesitate to contact the California League of Schools Region 7. Also, a big thank you to Randy Downer for creating our virtual awards presentation. I would like to introduce the Executive Director of California League of Schools, Kathy Perry, with a welcome to you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another wonderful California League of Schools Educator of the Year celebration. I'm Kathy Perry, the Executive Director of CLS. You know, we've been recognizing outstanding educators for more than 30 years, and this is the first time that we have ever done any of these virtually. I do like to look on the positive side of things, and the fact that we're still able to continue this program even during these incredibly difficult times is truly a testament to the spirit of educators. So I want to thank the nominators and the CLS Board of Directors for making these celebrations possible. And of course, congratulations to the nominees. I'm so very happy to be honoring you all here today. Thank you for everything you do and enjoy the celebration.
We're thrilled to honor another amazing group of educators this year, especially this year, for the great work that they do and the exemplary practices that they share with their colleagues. Each finalist will receive a gift certificate for a special dinner out, and the Region 7 Elementary Educator of the Year will represent our area at the state level later this year. I will read a few highlights from each application and play a video from the nominees sharing something that they learned from their students during this unprecedented, challenging, and transformative year. Vanessa Avidabel, 6th grade teacher at Mountain View Elementary School in Clovis Unified, nominated by her principal, Monica Everson. Mrs. Everson says about Vanessa that no one does it better than Vanessa with innovative student engagement lessons and meeting the social and emotional needs of her students through the building of positive relationships in a safe, inclusive, and caring environment. She is devoted with a tremendous amount of energy in designing high-interest learning experiences through extravagant room transformations. Under Vanessa's leadership, the 6th grade team continues to refine their 7-year departmentalizing model in which all 6th grade students rotate to a different 6th grade teacher to help prepare for a successful transition to junior high. Vanessa is the science and social studies guru for Mountain View, who also serves as the Clovis North Area Science Representative and has worked with the Fresno County Office of Education Science Coordinator to develop NGSS curriculum. While teaching body systems, Vanessa transforms her classroom into an operating room. During her Hammurabi court study, students portray the roles of lawyers, defendants, plaintiffs, and jurors in a court-like setting. During the Egypt unit, students learn about mummification by mummifying apples. This may sound like a lot of fun and games, but rest assured, there's serious, rigorous learning going on. There's nothing Vanessa wouldn't do for her kids and her school.
Hello, I'm Vanessa Vidable, and I teach 6th grade at Mountain View Elementary in Clovis Unified. Never would I have imagined that I would be teaching through a computer screen. This school year has presented unimaginable challenges daily. Although it's been difficult, this year has afforded me an opportunity to grow as a teacher and connect with my students in a life-changing way. While teaching online, I have learned that I can't always plan for every scenario of a lesson because I never know what to expect. Technology is great at throwing you curveballs. In the first week of this school year, I got kicked out of Zoom 10 times before lunch. As I would re-log in, I would pray and hope that the randomly selected host student wasn't abusing his or her power in my absence. Fortunately, these kids kept working and greeted me with encouragement. It was evident to me right away how much we were going to have to depend on each other to make it through this school year. I always refer to my classroom as a family, and this year it has never felt to be so true. I have learned unique things about my students that I never get to in a regular school year. Zoom gave us a glimpse into every student's home, allowing us to learn about pets, siblings, if you did or didn't have LED lights, and much more. We have a special bond in Room 18, and I wholeheartedly believe it comes from those first few months of Zooming. As a class, we have been able to collaborate together to conquer our fears. Our positivity project lessons have really helped us open up. They have been able to identify the character traits in their peers and reflect on their own character to make themselves a better person and or friend. Their maturity and support for each other has amazed me. Having the chat feature in Zoom has also allowed me to get to know my students through a different lens. Will the chat alert be a question about an assignment, a kind greeting, or that their dog needs to be let out? I have even been so lucky to receive all of the lyrics to Baby by Justin Bieber, just in case I wanted to karaoke later. We learned about that hands down, Kraft mac and cheese and dino-shaped nuggies always win as the best lunch. These conversations weren't necessarily standards-based, but they were what we needed. The ability to speak freely and have silly interactions strengthened our bonds. Transitioning from Zoom to in-person instruction was another big change. We were all so happy to get to see each other, but everyone had their individual apprehensions. Never missing a beat, we adjusted our learning and classroom time became more valued. Although I do miss the mute all button, I do not miss the distant feeling that accompanied online instruction. Returning to the classroom made me discover a new love of teaching and appreciation of daily interactions. The students of Room 18 proved that a pandemic can't stop learning, can't stop the building of friendships, and can't stop personal growth. The way my students have faced their fears, overcome academic challenges, and how they have lifted each other up has inspired me to be a better teacher, a better mentor, and a better person. The students of Room 18 are my golden bears who lead each day with heart, spirit, and pride.
Robin Berger, 5th and 6th grade SDC at Lincoln Elementary School in Sanger Unified, nominated by her principal, Holly Willett. Ms. Willett says, Robin Berger demonstrates unwavering commitment to her students in her special day class and is an exemplary leader. She has been an advocate for inclusion in the areas of academic, social, and behavioral settings. Mrs. Berger works with both general and special education teachers to ensure her students have the same opportunities to interact and participate in classes and school activities. Mrs. Berger has had to find ways to ensure students were able to continue working with general education students and teachers during remote learning. This year has brought many challenges, but Mrs. Berger has also taken on the role of implementing a new curriculum that is designed to support struggling students and used herself as a model for the rest of her PLC to begin implementing and finding ways to meet the needs of her students. Mrs. Berger goes above and beyond for her students and her colleagues while maintaining a positive attitude. She has continued to refine and improve her practices for the betterment of her students.
I think the biggest thing that I learned from my students this year during distance learning and the shutdown was that challenges aren't always a bad thing. They really accepted all the challenges that we were given, and they saw them as a good thing. They saw them as some way that they could grow, some way they could change. It was almost an adventure to them. Every day when they would log on, if the tech hadn't worked or something, they were all like, oh, let's try this, let's do this. And they really, really just kind of went with it. They grew, they changed. And they were such an amazing group to be able to do all of these things and accept the differences that we had and the things that had to change and the things that we couldn't do, but find a new way to do those and have those activities and have those abilities and have those different interactions that they were supportive of me, supportive of the other students, and supportive of themselves, and being like, it's okay, we're gonna get it, and if we don't, we're gonna try it this way. So I really think that is the biggest thing that I learned, was that challenges aren't necessarily a bad thing for us.
Melissa Contreras, elementary PE teacher at Jefferson Elementary School in Sanger Unified, nominated by her principal, Suki Siv. Ms. Contreras continues to keep students active and having fun in PE during the pandemic. She records exercise videos and pushes them out to students on Class Dojo. During virtual PE time, she is modeling and doing the exercises with students. Her excitement for physical fitness spreads to her students regardless of in-person or through her laptop screen. She frequently embeds other core curriculum into her PE class. Students are constantly practicing their numeracy and language skills in daily PE. Melissa engages students and their families by starting and leading many events such as Walk to School, Bike to School, the Jogathon, and Family Obstacle Course and Color Run. She helps organize activities like the intramurals and staff versus students sporting events as an athletic director. She currently hosts a weekly Tiger Fitness Club outside of school hours to encourage students to exercise and track their progress. Her commitment to the Jefferson community and innovative teaching practices are what makes her a standout compared to others. And she's always doing what's best for students and the school and has been instrumental during the pandemic.
My name is Melissa Contreras, and I teach at Sanger Unified School District. I currently teach at Jefferson Elementary and Quail Lake Charter School, and I teach physical education. And for 20 years, this has been my classroom. And this year, this is my classroom. When distance learning first started, I wasn't quite sure what physical education inside on the computer in a small space was going to look like. So I felt that it was going to be very traditional. What I thought traditional PE, I would just modify it a little bit to fit our needs in the situation. But as time went on, I was making these connections, and our lessons started changing. And when I say we, I mean my PLC, Nancy French and Pauline Janez. They started changing so we could have a little bit more of that interaction. So yes, we're teaching a whole class, but then we get to individualize it, like games with card sharks or Uno, where they get to be the player. We've had an egg hunt going into the spring break. Lots of different items for our equipment that you could find around the house. With distance learning, I've really come to find out that students love to share. They love to share every part of their room, every part of their life, especially their pets. So I've learned several things about the family pet, okay, or as I call them, their brothers and sisters or their little dog children. And these are some that I have grown to know. I know where they lay down during PE. I know that some need to be put away during PE because they're puppies and so excited. And children just love to share. And I'm making really good connections that I really hadn't outside in a big space. And all in all, this has been a really great school year, teaching PE inside, online, and just really having the time to get to know the students. It's not rushed to get back inside or everyone stay together. They have the opportunity to share things that they wouldn't normally be able to share. They wouldn't have some items at school like their pets, or even some like to share their little brothers and sisters that don't even attend school yet. So they're teaching me just to make time, let's get to know each other and have fun at the same time and getting some exercise. Thank you for the nomination. Thank you, Jefferson, Quail Lake, Sanger Unified, of course, my friends and family, and good luck to all the nominees.
Joseph Donnett, 5th and 6th grade combo grade teacher at Fugman Elementary School, nominated by Michael Olson, his principal. Imagine for a moment you are an educator who is taking courses towards completing your master's degree in the evening, expecting your first child, starting the year in a fully online distance learning classroom made up of entirely 5th grade students, only to then, in mid-year, have a conversation where your administrator tells you you are going to be transitioning to a 5th grade in-person cohort in the afternoon and adding a 6th grade online cohort in the morning. Not to miss a beat, he's also attending a second PLC. And he manages to lead a site-based professional development opportunity on utilizing Zoom and leveraging breakout systems for effective instruction. Mr. Donnett worked with the RSP teacher and her team of aides to help students utilize breakout rooms more effectively. Mr. Donnett had 16 students show growth in both math and ELA from the first diagnostic in August to the second in December. He has a positive, can-do attitude, and the students, staff, and community are better for it.
Over the course of this year, it's been really difficult for a lot of different people, especially for my students, but I know that I've learned a ton from them in general. The first thing that I've learned really through this entire teaching online and teaching through a pandemic platform is the idea that students have such resilience. They have more resilience than we give them credit for. We've asked them to do the hardest part of learning, right? We've asked them to do the math and the reading and the ELA, but they're not allowed to go to recess with their friends. They're not allowed to have lunch. They're not allowed to go to PE and do a lot of these things like sports until recently that they've really enjoyed and pulls a lot of those students towards school and allows them to enjoy it in general. And so the students have really shown a lot of resilience towards that. And I think that's shown through more this year than it has in the past, because regardless of what we've asked them to do, the students have stepped up and met the bar and they've taken it up past it. And it's really it's amazing because they're learning more through this experience and how to adjust their learning and adjust their ability to just be kids and be students in a classroom as opposed to on Zoom. It's changed, and I think it's a change that they're going to keep throughout the year. And they've really taught me that now more than ever, relationships are more important between not just students and teachers, but students and parents and teachers, and just everybody involved in the students' education, and how a great of an impact that can have in building a relationship and building those strong relationships and making sure that students are feeling cared for and feeling like they're valued, and that, yes, math is super important, but we're also checking in on them and making sure, hey, we know this is difficult and we know that this has been hard, but we want to make sure that they are successful in everything that they do. So that's what I've learned.
Sydney Gunland, first grade teacher at Fairmont Elementary School in Sanger Unified. Her principal, Jared Savage, nominated her. Mr. Savage says, Sydney Gunland is an amazing teacher leader who carries a spirit of gratitude while focusing on continuous system improvement. This forward lean pushes not only her, but the site and her district as well. Mrs. Gunland has shown tremendous leadership at Fairmont Elementary. She participates in site and district initiatives that increase student learning for all students while continuing to refine her own instructional practices. Mrs. Gunland has continued to drive the evolution of student learning communities with her first grade students. SLCs give students the power to work interdependently, analyze their learning, collaborate in a challenging learning environment, and set individual and collective learning goals. She volunteers her time to be part of a district discussion regarding the realities of teaching during distant learning and hybrid instruction in order to not just bring insight, but to learn from others. Her deliberate and intentional approach in providing both a physical and psychological safety net for her students ensures that all students possess a sense of belonging within the school community.
Hi, my name is Sydney Gunland, and I teach first grade. As teachers, we're always talking about time. There's not enough time to teach everything you need to, not enough time to teach the standards the way we really want to, and not enough time for that third cup of coffee at your lunch break that you so desperately need. When the pandemic began, time slowed way down, and we focused on family and health and safety. But what my students taught me during this pandemic and distance learning was that time spent getting to know them was priceless. Thanks to Zoom and Google Classroom, I got to see inside their lives and what makes them who they are and all the things that they love, like their race car themed bedroom, their llamas, the chickens and all their names, their favorite Christmas ornament, and all angles of their cat. This helped create connections on a personal level and build relationships, but also to learning. When it came time for opinion writing, I knew that suggesting Curious George is the best cartoon in the world would hook that reluctant writer to the point where he didn't want to stop writing even during math time. Or that guided reading book about Komodo dragons would get my lizard-loving little girl so excited that she got the rest of the group excited to read it too. Getting to know my students and creating these connections to learning has been more powerful this year than ever before. I think we're onto something with Zoom and Google Classroom. I think that slowing time down just a little bit to get to know your students, to find ways to connect things that they love and who they are to learning is going to be more successful than anything else. I also think that through all of this and all of the fear educators had about learning loss and what the gaps were going to be and putting students inside this box, I don't think students belong there. And my students taught me that this year. We can't put them in that box. We have to lift the lid. We have to raise our expectations and give them the tools that they need to do it, even in 2.5 hours a day. When they believe that they can do it, and they have teachers who raise the bar, they will prove every time that they can, and they will do it. I think the combination of getting to know my students this year and having high expectations has proven that they can do anything. They are successful at anything in life when they have someone who gets to know them and believes in them the way teachers have this year.
Kristen Lofgren, second and third grade combo class at Oraz Elementary School in Clovis Unified, submitted by her principal, Robin Snyder. Kristen has been masterful in how she navigates the instruction of both second and third grade. At the beginning of the year, she was all in for learning and implementing new strategies that would work for students in their new online learning format. Kristen's dedication to ensure all her students received the instruction they needed in her grade level led her to try new things and think outside the box when it came to strategies and her teaching style. When schools were given the opportunity to return to campus, Kristen was the first volunteer. Her willingness to pilot all the new safety measures and her innovative thinking helped the school to be successful in getting students back on campus. Kristen has volunteered to lead professional development to help teachers learn new strategies that they can implement right away in their own classrooms. Kristen is the epitome of a servant leader. If there is a need, she will fill it. She seems to have a never-ending source of energy that is focused on doing all she can to help students connect to school.
There's a quote we often hear in education that goes a little something like this. We try and teach our children all about life, and our children teach us what life is all about. And I'm not sure if there's been a year where that's really been more true than the past year. When we think back to a year ago in March and how our world in education as teachers, as students, was turned upside down in a matter of moments, it's hard to not think about what have our students taught us over this year. Well, I can tell you for one thing, my students have taught me that idea of perseverance. It's funny when I think about it because so many times I've spent so many hours trying to teach them about perseverance and that idea of never giving up. And yet this year, they have taught me what perseverance truly looks like. Their educational setting was completely turned upside down when schools were closed and students quickly had to adapt to learning at home in a completely different environment than what they were used to. Once again, our students may have even experienced a new schedule when our classrooms were reopened and they got to come back into our rooms for in-person instruction. At no point in time did my students ever give up. Did they ever make excuses? And did they ever say things were just too hard? And I can't help but be encouraged and motivated by them to have the same ideas. Because if second and third graders can keep going, then you better believe that as their teacher and as an adult, I can certainly keep going as well. Another thing that I was reminded of this school year or learned from my students is that really intrinsic love of learning. It hasn't mattered this year whether we've been learning through a Zoom screen or learning in class, if it was fractions, if it was the idea of creating opinion essays. My students have shown me what a love of learning really looks like. They've come with enthusiasm, with a willingness to learn, and an eagerness to learn new information. And probably the biggest thing that I learned from my students this year was that idea of gratitude. I think we all started to take for granted what we thought education and what we had come to expect from education, and last March certainly reminded us of those little joys in teaching, those aha moments being in person with students, of when they finally understand a hard concept, the giggles and the jokes you have between each other, whether it's on a computer screen or in person. Those joys of something as simple as giving a student a paper test, and yes, they will actually squeal with delight of, we get a paper test again, to new books in their book boxes, to having that time to be around fellow classmates and just learn with each other. So while this past year has definitely had its challenges, it's most certainly had some really rays of sunshine in it as well, as we think about all of those things that our students have taught us.
Mary Ann Mendoza, kindergarten teacher at Sanger Academy Charter School in Sanger Unified. Nominated by her principal, Mark Coleman. For over 30 years, Mary Ann Mendoza has worked to lay a strong academic and emotional foundation for the students of Sanger Unified School District. Mrs. Mendoza is an institution in Sanger and has cultivated a reputation for excellence. Mary Ann is a champion for all her students and is an advocate for fully inclusive classrooms. She has been one of the only general education teachers in the district who has had the opportunity to welcome students who have previously been enrolled in special day classrooms. Although this school year has been filled with unprecedented changes and challenges, Mary Ann has adjusted and thrived. She defies the stereotype that more seasoned educators can be stuck in their ways, as she was one of the first teachers to integrate new technology and tools in her classroom during the pandemic. She sets an example for her students and colleagues to take risks and persevere. Mrs. Mendoza works tirelessly to make the world a better place.
This pandemic has made me more aware of the needs of my students and their families in the past 32 years of my teaching career. Prior to the pandemic, my relationship with my students and their families was of utmost importance to gain the respect and trust needed to manifest my high expectations for their child's learning. Well, now with the pandemic and distance as a major obstacle in my teaching, I had to learn how to continue that connection that was so important to me and how to teach virtually to my little ones. Both of equal importance, I quickly adapted to this new challenge and now have evolved many times to accommodate the changes in our learning environment. In March of 2020, our worlds came to an abrupt halt. My students, my parents, and I were separated from one day to the other. No goodbyes, no hugs, no see you later alligators. When I realized we would not be able to resume our normal, I quickly went into survival mode. I, as well as my students, parents, learned quickly ways to stay connected. At this time, whatever device they had at home was used and we made it work. I have fond memories of new firsts for me and my students, such as package pickups and drop-offs, Wednesday dates with every student via FaceTime to catch up on their little lives and encourage them to do their very best at home and in distance learning. And the most memorable for me was when my kinder parents, past and present, showed up for a birthday card parade at my house. Oh, the love that I felt was overwhelming. I have learned so much from my little ones. I have learned that whatever mode of teaching they receive from me, they will learn. Whether it be like when the pandemic first hit, sending out videos on Class Dojo to having my very own YouTube channel to hybrid instruction today. The relationship I have with their parents is still of utmost importance. They have taken that responsibility full-heartedly and have surpassed my expectations of learning at home. My students have also taught me that whatever situation they are in, they can thrive and be happy. They are resilient. They have shown a love for learning since day one. But now that we are in person, oh my, the love for learning is off the charts. They come to school every day so happy. They do not know what kindergarten was like in the past. They do not know how many activities cannot be replicated this year due to COVID guidelines. But they do know that school is precious and that it is the best part of their day. They know that this is the best place to learn. They know that the children they saw on their iPad screens and their classmates are friends now. They now have conversations with their peers, even with social distancing from one end of the room to the other. They come to school every day wanting more of their classroom. Their classroom is their sanctuary, a taste of normalcy, a garden of knowledge, and a joyful room where giggles and dancing occur often. That is what I have learned from my students during this pandemic.
Diana Ray, third grade teacher at Liberty Elementary School in Clovis Unified, nominated by her principal, George Peterson. CUSD gave its families a choice for either online instruction or a hybrid. Mrs. Ray knew that if she chose one or the other as a teacher, several students would have to leave her class. So instead, Mrs. Ray chose to implement a simultaneous instructional model. She figured out which equipment and software allowed her students on Zoom to interact verbally and visually with the students in her classroom and with herself. She had to redesign curriculum and be trained on how to deliver the instruction simultaneously. The learning curve for her was tremendous. Her room, however, became an example for her colleagues. Staff members set up a time to observe and discuss how to prepare for in-person and how to deliver simultaneous instruction. 100% of the staff at her school is providing the simultaneous model now. Mrs. Ray said that she has grown more professionally this year than any other time in her career.
I have grown this year personally and professionally more than any other year, and my students take the credit for it. My transformation was made possible by taking on their lens, and it is through them that I have learned so much more about instruction and just how vital an educator is to the healthy development of children. Through this last year of shutdown, stories of students struggling grabbed my heart. That's when my lens began to change. Students didn't want to participate on Zoom. Their grades were the lowest they have ever been, and many displayed signs of depression. Of course, I knew bringing back students would involve difficult work, long hours, and anxiety. But viewing the shutdown through their eyes made the challenging less intimidating. They needed help. My goal was to bring back as many kids as possible. The tears of joy and the cheers of relief from parents when I called to let them know their student could return will forever be etched in memory. Once the students entered the classroom, the transformation happened immediately. Students who never turned on their cameras and those who never talked about Zoom became engaged and excited. I wouldn't forget the smiling eyes of one of my students on that first day. The other half of her face covered by a mask. She had been one that was failing and distanced on Zoom, but in the classroom, her eyes lit up. And before long, she became animated while interacting with her peers. In fact, she needs to be reminded when to stop talking now. Those smiling eyes represented just how powerful the classroom, just how vital the role I play in the healthy development of children. My students and I learn together and, in a sense, support each other. As I adjusted the technology that provided feedback on its effectiveness until my audio-video interface worked for both roomies and Zoomies. My struggles with simultaneous instruction created new curriculum, becoming proficient with technology and implementing safety protocols, all done to bring back students to the classroom, made me realize that my struggle was a good thing. My journey to bring back students was filled with failure upon failure. Yet each time I failed, I learned and I grew. Then it hit me. This is the way students grow as well. Students learn in their struggle and don't get it right the first time. They must try, take a risk, and in a sense, they must fail until they get it right. It dawned on me that my goal as a teacher is not necessarily to design a perfect lesson with no struggle. Rather, my job is to create a lesson that invites the struggle of learning. My job is to create a learning environment where effort is celebrated and taking a risk is encouraged. As their teacher, I provide a caring balance between support and challenge, and it is through the struggle that students build efficacy and resilience. As my colleagues and I work together to bring kids back, I realized my personal journey of growth was unique. Each teacher learned how to do simultaneous instruction differently, and boy, was it messy, filled with so many unpredictable moments of confusion and clarity. Collaboration with staff was such an important support for me in my personal growth, and I never knew when an idea from a colleague would move me forward. My growth was not linear, and neither is a student learning. I had to learn to feel comfortable and plan for the messiness of 27 unique learners, and the best way to do this is through student collaboration. As I implemented this, I listened to them. They told me where my instruction was effective and where it wasn't. They told me when they were confused and when they weren't. Their conversation with each other told me when to linger and when to move on. It was listening to their discussions about their learning that taught me so much about how a lesson should be designed. One of my biggest aha moments in my professional career is when I realized that I need to plan a lesson through the lens of the learner, not through the lens of a teacher. I will never again design a lesson without planning for and anticipating the struggle and confusion. I now design a lesson to help them unravel their own messiness through interaction. Of course, this year is filled with so many discouraging moments, and many will want to forget this year. But for me, I will look back upon this year with a different lens. I have been forever changed in a positive way.
Melissa Tannaleone, grade 2 teacher at Janet L. Young Elementary School in Clovis Unified, nominated by her principal, Casey Gibson. At every school site across the United States, there are teachers who exemplify themselves within the educational profession during these most challenging times. Melissa Tannaleone is one of those teachers who has consistently exemplified exceptional practices. Melissa is her grade level's professional learning community lead, and she has steered her team to utilize the assessment data they have in order to group students and provide reteaching or enrichment, a critical process for addressing the learning loss that is a result of the pandemic. As the PBIS coordinator, Melissa has been an integral part of her school for building the system from the ground up, beginning with identifying the behavioral characteristics that the school emphasizes and helping to identify specific behaviors for a behavioral matrix. Each month, Melissa works with teachers to record videos to recognize students and their positive behaviors, assembles those videos into a set of announcements to play for the entire school, and makes sure that each and every student receives a care chip, a collectible item that recognizes that they each have the care chip within. As a mentor, Melissa has imparted knowledge on her colleagues during professional development sessions and then followed up with emails and how-to videos for the staff that help her teammates transition the knowledge into skills and practice. The staff and student response to Melissa's influential actions has been extremely positive and evident in our improved behavioral data as a site.
What I learned from my students during distance learning is resilience. This year has brought so many twists and turns, and with it every emotion. Not only did my students start the year off online, they all did it at a brand new school with new teachers and new staff. I will never forget the first day we opened our doors to meet every student for the very first time. Even though they were wearing a mask, I could see the excitement in their eyes as they got a peek at their new campus. Online learning wasn't perfect at the beginning, but they were so patient as we troubleshooted through the technical issues and while we learned our way through the new apps. When we started bringing students on campus, both in-person and online students had to adjust to new schedules. Yet another challenge came their way, and they persevered and took responsibility by setting their Alexas to remind them to start Zoom at the right time or to get their asynchronous learning started before they came to class. They continue to log on Zoom or enter my classroom with big smiles on their faces, and they're ready to learn. They don't take for granted any moment we have together. Their resilience pushes me every day to be more creative, engaging, and to make every minute count. My teaching will never be the same after this experience, and we can all learn to be a little bit more resilient like our students.
As you can see, all of our finalists are exceptional. Thank you for your commitment to your students and to your craft. Finalists will be delivering your gift card certificates and proclamations to your sites very soon. Thank you for your participation in this year's Educator of the Year event. And now, without further delay, the winner representing Region 7 at the California League of Elementary Schools Educator of the Year is Melissa Tantaleone from Janet L. Young Elementary School in Clovis Unified. Congratulations.